Hello art students. Today we are going to work on shading multiple forms using one light source using our soft pastels. You're going to choose either warm or cool colors, and I would suggest a neutral background. So I start out with my soft pastel and I'm using cool colors, and I'm just filling in the sphere first. So I'm just going to work my way over from right to left. After you fill in the sphere, of course, you want to blend. Once you've blended, add your shadow forms to your sphere. Make sure your shadow form curves with the form of the sphere. Shouldn't be a straight line, it should be a curved line. Then blend. Then I'm going to add the core shadow, and I'm going to blend that a little less just so that blue stays a little stronger there. Then I'm adding some reflected light. I started out with the light blue, but then I wanted to pump it up a little bit, so I used some of the white. Using the white to create the center light. And then I'm kind of working that half tone area. So, it's kind of a matter of going in and out and keeping working. Now I'm going to start working on the cylinder. And notice I switch colors, but it's still a cool color. Green is still a cool color. So I'm just going to fill in the side of the cylinder. I am going to leave the top for later. So once you fill it in, then you're going to blend. So get your base color in, blend. Sorry, my hand blocks a lot of what I'm doing, but you can see afterwards. Now I'm adding the center light, and right now I'm just using a yellow. Blending. Now I'm adding the shadow form. Notice I'm using just a darker green for this. Doing some blending. And I have to add in some reflected light on that side. There is a little bit of reflected light. Oh, I'm adding a little white. I spoke too soon. I'm adding a little white on the light side, just to really pump up that center light. Now I'm adding that reflected light, just with a lighter green, the lightest green on the side. If you see me tipping my book up, I'm just getting rid of the stuff. So I added a little bit that I didn't blend from my core shadow. So sometimes you might want to not blend it, it stays a little darker. Now I'm doing the top of the cylinder, which is a little darker than the side of the cylinder. It gets a little less light because the light is coming directly from the side. And the top left is darker than the top right. So, you might need to lighten up the left side and darken up the right side a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to work on the cube. Working on one side at a time. So I chose to the left side, which is the lightest side of the cube. So I'm just going to fill in with the color, and I'm using the blue again. Now there is a cast shadow on the cube from the sphere. The sphere is blocking some of the light to the cube. So you need to add a cast shadow, and then make sure you do some blending. And then I'm going to actually add a little white onto the blue side just to really lighten it up a bit. It's hard to see the white, but it's in my hand. And I really want to make that light side look like it's really getting that reflected light. So I use the white on top of the light blue. Okay, now I'm going to work on the right side. This is the darkest side. So I start off with the same blue that I started on the light side. But instead of adding light, now I'm going to add more shadow, just like I did in the cast shadow on the side of the cube. So blending. And then I'm going to go in there with the darker blue. And it's especially darker on the closer to the corners next to the light side, because that's where more light is getting obscured and there's less reflected light there. So it gets a little lighter as you move towards the edge. So you'll see me go, after I blend, go back in and work on those sides on the left. Did I say the right? On the left. Okay, so there you go. I've got my darker blue and I'm pumping up that dark area along the edge. Okay, now it's time to work on the top of the cube. And again, same blue color, same base color. Bring it in. It's a little darker than the top side, so we want to leave it a little bit darker. So I'm just going to pumping it up a little bit. Now I'm adding our neutral background. So you can leave a edge, they call it a vignette edge, and you can leave it, you know, you don't have to make it a perfect square or anything. You can if you want to. You can go all the way over the edge if you want to. But often when people are working with messy materials like pastels, they leave a little bit off the edge so that you can handle the paper more easily, because they are messy. Okay, now I'm going to add some cast shadows, and I apologize, my sketchbook slipped below the camera level, so it's a little hard to see what I'm doing here, but you'll see when I pop it out. Notice how I'm really studying those cast shadows in my photograph. You'll be able to look on your iPad. I was using my iPad to film myself, so I couldn't look at the photo on my iPad and work at the same time. So I had to look at the photograph. So notice that those cast shadows get a little darker near the objects. So I'm just using the dark brown on top of my peachy color. I chose the peach color for the background on this one because I thought it would, it's neutral, but it also has a little orange to it, so I thought it would look nice with the blues because they're complementary colors. Right, so the last thing I'm going to do is just add that kind of darker wall that's in the background of that photograph. Just filling it in. Background really gives you a nice opportunity to fill in and clean up your spaces around your arms. Use this, go slow, and use this as an opportunity. I know it looks like I'm going really fast, but it's really just fast forwarded. Otherwise, this was going to be a 40-minute long video, and I'm sure you didn't want to watch me doing this for 45 minutes. So, you know, just make sure you go slow, clean up. Remember, this was not the speed that I did this at, okay? All right. Good work, class.